lansa pe gale yore ta po ko na chu to pe na chu ba ta pe nyu mambo ko tane tare te poyor ko tare chu de la sa chimbo da na rene de la sa chimbo zo yore yena nga chu poyor ko tare shiom ba chi girgin na ja ga tane kheba na ja ga khorang chu na te cham zu de poyor ko chu de la thongchin tare ga she ke yo mare tenangi khora chwa ina khung tan chok girgin tare nyan cha chimbore tendik che gu tang chigi poyor na yoni poyor ko na chu de la startang ka se yo tane ngo ngo ne tan poyor ko chu de la lo jong shi ya da na tane nyal ne shi ya da na tane tan te so tare sta ka se yon de ni to chwa shi ki
Okay, so first, I definitely agree, and even in my lifetime, and the part of my time that I spent studying Buddhism, I saw a tremendous growth in the study of Tibetan Buddhism, and even myself, I started to study Buddhism in Thailand, and then went to China and encountered Buddhism in China, and studied Chinese Buddhism, and eventually discover deep passion for Indian and Tibetan Buddhism. I think that generally there's a growing interest in among Westerners in Tibetan Buddhism because it seems to me and to a lot of other Westerners that Tibetan Buddhism is has more fruitful connection with development in Western philosophy, Western religions, and Western science. For example, the conversation about the nature of the mind that we just had seems to be explored more thoroughly in Indian Buddhism and then later was transformed to Tibet. So there's a lot of modernistic elements that seems to correspond to themes and topics that were explored among Tibetan Buddhists throughout the centuries. In the general population, there's a lot of respect to Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan culture. It seems this is kind of like a popular image of Tibetan Buddhism in the West is that it's a tradition that that know how to deal with the stresses of modern life. It's a tradition that can find a joy in life, and when a lot of Westerners have encounter with Buddhists and with Tibetans, either superficially or more deeply, they are really at awe with the simplicity, kindness, compassion, and happiness that they found among the Tibetans that they come in contact with. There's an influx of Tibetan teachers like yourself who were still coming to the West, and they made a deep impression on a lot of people. It seemed to me also that part of what happened now with the study of Tibetan culture and Tibetan Buddhism in the West is that we are moving into a more mature phase. So the earlier decades of interaction were some sort of like a fascination, an idealized vision of what Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan culture is all about. And I think that we got a skewed picture and more of like really an idealized picture of how we would like to see Tibetan Buddhism, more than how Buddhism was really on the ground. And as time goes by, we have a more, and these are the kind of debates that we have in the tradition and the kind of trends that I see. We have a moving towards a more nuance and a more on-the-ground appreciation of Buddhism in Tibet and the way that Buddhism is developed. And part of it is a very intensive effort to translate as many texts as possible. A lot of ethnographical works of people who are going to Tibetan communities and study how either cultural aspects or Buddhist aspects are practiced on the ground.
Nasu,